So, I first want to acknowledge that on top of everything parents of children with childhood apraxia of speech or CAS are dealing with, these kinds of questions take great courage to answer, especially on those days when you're not feeling your best or you're kind of feeling worn down by it all.
Parents just know that you don't have to say anything. You don't have to respond to that. That's your choice. And you can sometimes, being an advocate for your child sometimes looks like speaking and educating others. And being an advocate for your child sometimes looks like protecting your child and maybe not having to deal with that at that time and taking them out of that situation. So I think that that can look different for everybody. And again, it can be something that changes day to day. Some days you might feel like tackling the advocacy part, and some days you might not feel up to it, and that's okay. Um, it's not your job to have to advocate all the time, but if you want to, that opportunity is there.
The first thing I would do is I would recommend that parents anticipate these questions ahead of time so that they'll have a response in mind already and they can fully take advantage of this teaching opportunity. That will help keep them from being caught off guard. And instead, they can feel empowered to respond confidently.
If you do want something to say, I would just recommend having some phrases that are your go to phrases, and just have those at the ready, like, oh, talking's hard for us today, or, she'll talk when she's ready, or he'll talk when he's ready.
I believe that the best way to answer is with quick facts. So, you might say something like, my child has something called childhood apraxia of speech or CAS. They understand everything other people are saying, but have a harder time getting their mouth to communicate with their brain. Talking is tricky, but we're working really hard to get better, and your kindness and understanding can go a long way for kids like mine.
So I think I would say, I'm glad you asked would be the first thing because I feel like people don't ask, and that would be a good way for you to get your foot in the door, talking about what your child has, talking about how it's a movement disorder and it's not like kids who have typical speech disorders. It's something different, and that it will take a while for them to start talking better and more clear, and that if they want to know more about it, they can refer them to Apraxia Kids, or they can sit down and have some coffee sometime and kind of discuss it with them.
Something that I learned at the Apraxia Kids conference last year was from a family member who made up some little, well, I've seen two ways. I've seen a little almost like business size card that you can hand out to people to just say, so that you don't have to say anything, but you can still educate them. And it might say, my child has apraxia of speech. This is what apraxia looks like. This is what you're seeing, whatever you want to include on that. And then I also last year saw at the conference, someone shared this great kind of like card, like a Christmas card that you would send out, but instead of being a holiday card, it was all about their child on the front with a picture of them. And it was more intended to share with their teacher and the classroom and other parents in the class so that people were aware. And that was really awesome. It was really well done. It had facts about apraxia on it and also facts about this child and what you might see and what might be hard for them. And also included things that they really love to do, because I think we have to remember that apraxia doesn't define who you are. You have other interests, you have other things that you love to do. And that can be a way that your child can connect with another child. Maybe they both like Spider-Man and you wouldn't know that just from looking at them.
I think the more that people know and the more people understand, my child or any child might be the first child with childhood apraxia of speech, but they probably won't be the last.
If there's someone out in the world bold enough to ask you what is wrong with your child, again, you're going to have to summon your courage and your strength to try to answer in a way that might help this person think twice before asking such a question in the future. You might say something like, our family feels strongly that there's nothing wrong with our child, and in our minds, different is not the same thing as wrong. We love and support our child just the way they are. And depending how you're feeling about the exchange at this point, you might feel comfortable adding some quick facts or information about childhood apraxia of speech.
these questions are often asked just out of curiosity when someone notices that something's different from the typical, and they're most likely not meant in an unkind way. And since we don't, know the motive behind the question that's being asked, we should just assume that they're just asking it to gain some understanding.
I think something to keep in mind too is that other parents might be asking because they might be worried about their own child or loved one in their family or in their community. And so they might see a resemblance in your child and wonder, wow, that looks a lot like someone who I care a lot about, and I want to know more and how I can help. And the way that people go about asking that isn't always the best way. They might just see something and say, what's going on with your kid? Because they're so excited to see somebody else who resembles your child, who resembles their loved one in your child, and they want to talk about it and have a conversation. And you might not be ready for that, and you don't have to be just because they are. But if you are, I think it's okay, and to just know that you don't know the place that someone's coming from when they ask. I try and always just be positive and think someone deep down somewhere is coming from a good place with their questions, even though they might not come off that way.
I would also want parents to realize the power that's in this moment. After all, there is such power in the way that we can help another person frame their perspective of apraxia and ultimately of those who are different from them. And I would want parents to know that by seizing this educational opportunity confidently, they are setting a powerful example to their child as well. We're modeling for them today how we use our voices to educate others so that one day they can use their own voices to do the same thing.